abuse the ones who are fighting him. It goes to show you how much envy can destroy a human being. So he witnesses all of this period of the trials his father faces, and without a shadow of doubt, there is great pain which affects him when he sees the poison that is administered on the life of his brother Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam. Because those two have grown up with each other. You can't get a bond of friendship like the friendship between Imam al-Hassan and Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. Every single time they are mentioned alongside each other. Every single time there is a moment of praise, the moment of praise is alongside each other. But he knew Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam has a formidable character. As in Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, we have to understand there are moments where Imam al-Hassan really acts like a leader to Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. Sometimes there are people out there who don't respect the position of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, saying, look, Imam al-Hussain is a warrior, Imam al-Hassan is just a man of nobility. Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, there are times Imam al-Hussain looks up to him as a leader, not just a big brother. He looks up to him in certain decisions where Imam al-Hassan says to him, I want you to be calm in this situation. I want you to hold back in this situation. I don't want anything to be done in this situation. So he looked at his brother as a major role model in his life. As an Imam, of course. Imam al-Hassan is, the second most important Imam in the school of Ahl al-Bayt. So after Imam al-Hassan passes away, then, that whole period where he then becomes a protector for the message of the religion of Islam. So, there's very great amount of trials and tribulations that Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam faces.
And inshallah I want to come back to that period of time where he's with his brother, and also afterwards, after the passing of his brother, and then inshallah we will carry on with the discussion. But I believe we have another caller. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, brother.
Assalamu alaikum, brother. How are you?
Not too bad, thank you. And salams to Sayyid as well.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I've got two questions. The first is, because, alhamdulillah, we've got a good media now. Some of the majalis that they're going to be putting on are probably, excellent, and we've got A-list speakers. Whereas in the centres we might have B-list speakers. Therefore, with the cold weather and everything, it's all too easy to say we'll stay home and watch TV, rather than actually attend the Hussainiyas. So what would the Sayyid's advice be of the blessings of the attending Hussainiyas themselves? And secondly, would Sayyid encourage the scholars that do attend the Hussainiyas to hold Q&A, so there's a bit more interaction between the scholar and the listeners as well?
Thank you very much for the call, brother. Thank you. Two-part question there. Naturally, the weather here in the United Kingdom is very cold anyway. I don't know about the rest of the world. And the brother's saying, obviously over the next 10 nights, or the 10 nights of Muharram, is it more advisable to stay home and perhaps watch some of these great channels that we have, where maybe the quality of the lecture will be higher because you can pick and choose what you want to watch? Or is there more thawab in going to the masjid and the Hussainiyas and the centres and actually making that step to go and listen to majalis?
First and foremost, give the benefit of the doubt to any speaker that comes into your city, in that don't start, drawing lists up of this is the A-list speaker and that's the B-list and these are C's and these are D's. Every speaker has their own flavor in terms of what they deliver. Every speaker has their own style. Every speaker has their own content. They may all address a similar topic, but they all entertain that topic or discuss that topic or thoroughly examine that topic from a number of different angles. If we get in this mentality where this person is the A-list speaker and that one is B and that is C, then no one's going to be allowed to develop. Why? Because you're going to say, I'm used to hearing this type of speaker. I don't want to hear this guy because he's a beginner. On the contrary, you may find that there are certain people who, if it's not for your support, they're not going to develop in their majalis. Or someone who you didn't give the benefit of the doubt, and maybe he was explaining something in a way you would have appreciated. So on the first level, let's try and give everyone the benefit of giving them a chance and listening to them. Yes, there are certain speakers who are reputable in the idea that they've been around for years and that their reputation is extremely high. But then there are others who you have to help give confidence and give inspiration in order that they can give that back to you as well. On the second level, if a person begins to say that it's going to be too snowy for me to attend the majlis, then that person hasn't really understood what really happened at Karbala. Why? Because that same person is coming to an occasion where he claims he remembers hearing a story of a group of people who had to go through the terrains of the deserts. They had to go through heat. They had to go through sandstorms with chains. Now, if you claim that you love these personalities because they went through that, then why is a bit of snow being so dangerous for yourself? Don't get me wrong, a person has to always make sure that they plan ahead and plan for their safety. But if you're not willing to go out and face this trial in the message of those who went out and faced even more difficult trials than what you are facing now. So I think on the second level, let's try and actually feel a bit of Karbala. It's two completely opposing weather conditions, but the incentive and the initiative should be exactly the same. On the third level, the internet has its positives and it has its drawbacks. Its positives are that people can listen to lectures from around the world by clicking a button. Its drawback is that it might begin to grow a culture where people say, I'll just sit at home and listen rather than go to a majlis. A majlis is full of blessings without a shadow of doubt. For in a congregation of Muharram, you are remembering first and foremost Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And any place where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is remembered is a place of honor. Then you are remembering the greatest creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that being the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Then after that you are remembering the most beloved family, which is the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. I'm a firm believer in the idea that you have possibly the souls of holy personalities attending the majalis of Ahlul Bayt. Some may come and say that we are in a very intellectual century, although I don't know what that word is now, what it means now. Every Tom, Dick and Harry is being labeled it, but you find that it's, people are coming to say that there's no such thing as these traditional things. No, on the contrary, you sit down in a majlis where Allah and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa and his family are remembered, then there's no doubt that Allah may allow certain holy souls or certain of His holy creation to surround that particular congregation. And on the fourth level, you should attend the congregations. Why? The social aspect of meeting the elders, meeting those who are in need, those who are physically challenged, and trying to come to them and help them. How many people do you not see from Shahr Ramadan until Muharram, from Muharram till Shahr Ramadan? There are people who don't go to the mosque except in these 2 months. I can look at them negatively and say these people aren't religious, but then I can look at them positively and say, well, at least they've made the effort. Let me try and build up their spirits so that they continue that same energy throughout the year. So there are many benefits to attending these gatherings.
And the second part is, would you encourage these speakers themselves to perhaps engage in question and answers? Because naturally they may be giving a majalis and some things need clarifying afterwards, or people just want to ask questions such as the ones we're asking tonight. So would you encourage that as well? I
think to the credit of many centers in this generation, there is much more interaction with the speakers. I think, like, if you look at the more traditional first generation groups who were listening to the Arabic or to the Persian or the Indo-Pak, you didn't really get that interaction. With the English lectures, you get a lot more seminars, a lot more Q&As, and I think already there is a good movement forward, and I think already it's being encouraged.
Thank you very much, Said. We have another caller. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam, Sheikh.
Salam, brother. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you, sir?
Alhamdulillah, very good.
My question is that I'm just quoting the historic book reference, chapter 3 of Muruj Zahab al-Masudi.
Yeah.
And Hazrat Abu Bakr, Muhammad bin Abu Bakr, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, wrote a letter to Amir Muawiyah and saying that why you are swearing and using abrupt word to Imam Ali when his uncle is Hamza and his brother is the Prophet of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I cut short, and Muawiyah wrote back. This is on page 30 on Muruj Zahab, which I have. He wrote back to Muhammad bin Abu Bakr radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, don't accuse me for all this happening. You should blame your father and his friend. So Muawiyah's opinion that is that Abu Bakr and Umar were the culprit to put him there, and that was the initial set stage for the Karbala. Shukran.
Thank you very much, brother. Thank you. The question is regarding the son of Abu Bakr, Muhammad bin Abu Bakr, one of the most staunch followers and lovers of the Ahlul Bayt. and follow one of the staunchest lovers of Imam Ali, actually having a dialogue with Muawiyah where he shifts the blame from himself for the 80 years of cursing of Imam Ali?
Well, at the end of the day, when you want to look at all of these traditions, there are many ways in which you look at it. First and foremost, when you quote Mas'udi, are you quoting someone who you think is to be a source for another school in Islam, or is it for your own school? As in, can someone call it like a Shia polemic, for example, or is it from another school in Islam? Is Mas'udi writing with an Abbasid bias against the Umayyad caliphs, considering that's when his work seems to appear? That's another thing to consider. Number 3, in terms of Muawiyah, yes, without a doubt, many of the reports indicate that Muawiyah was appointed governor in place of his brother Yazid of Syria in the 20th year after Hijrah by the second Khalifa. But of course, even if you're appointed by the second Caliph, it's your life that you live on the earth. You're the ones who make decisions for your life. I can always go back and shift blame on people who appoint me, but then they have got the free will to make my own decisions. When Muawiyah is saying to Muhammad bin Abu Bakr, that was your dad and his friend who began all of this, okay, but you've got the free will to make your own decisions. You can change your mind, you can change your principles, you can change your standpoints, but you're the one who decided that you should take Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam to war, knowing that he has absolutely nothing to do with the killing of Uthman. You're the one who fights him at Siffin and kills a man like Ammar ibn Yasir. So instead of us looking at this from an angle where we straight away want to condemn A, B, C, D, E, F, G, let's try and look at it and say, look, if Muawiyah is blaming others, rather he should blame himself. It's his free will and it's his own decision-making skills. And of course, appointing Yazid as his successor was the worst of decisions which he made.
And speaking of Muawiyah, this is now coming back to discussion about Imam al-Hussain, before we took those several calls. The question I wanted to ask is, obviously Imam al-Hussain living with his brother under the imamate of his brother, I suppose, and they have been subject to they've agreed to a treaty with Muawiyah, which many people ironically point to as somehow being a virtue of Muawiyah. After Imam Hassan passes away, Imam Hussain lives for another 10 years or so, but still living under the caliphate of Muawiyah. Now, people would argue his silence or his not rising up is somehow a plus point to Muawiyah somehow. How does this represent? What does this represent, and how does this also help us understand the treaty and the points of the treaty which Imam Hassan and alayhi salam and Muawiyah had together?
Well, the years 40 after Hijrah, 50 after Hijrah, and 60 after Hijrah are fundamental years in Islamic history. 40 after Hijrah is because Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, after he passes away, within months there is a treaty which is signed between Imam al-Hassan and Muawiyah. And within that treaty there are points which are made. For example, that number 1, you stop the cursing of Imam Ali alayhi salam on the pulpits. Number 2, you protect the sunnah of my grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. Number 3, you protect the Shia of Ali who were alive at the time. Number 4, you give the blood money back to those who had died at Jamal and Siffin. And number 5, you give the Khilafah back either to Imam al-Hassan, or Imam al-Hassan is not alive, to Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. 10 years later, so we're talking about 50 AH or so, depending on the different historical narratives, we find that Imam al-Hassan is poisoned upon the orders of Muawiyah. Have all the points of the treaty, have all of them been broken? Well, the cursing of Imam Ali continued, so that was broken. Protection of the Shia, they weren't protected. Blood money given back, no, they weren't given back their blood money. Sunnah changed, Sunnah was changed. But there's one more area which means Imam al-Hussain still can't rise against Muawiyah. See, Imam Hassan's died, so now Imam al-Hussain is alive and Muawiyah is alive. We're talking 50 AH, Muawiyah is still alive, Imam al-Hussain is alive, but Muawiyah still hasn't appointed or hasn't given it away to other than himself. It's 10 years later, that before Muawiyah passes away, that instead of giving it back to Imam al-Hussain, as the final clause in the treaty had said, that he gives it back to, or he gives it to Yazid. And that's where Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam now has a role to rise against Muawiyah, because in the past it was okay, we've signed a treaty with you, you've broken 4 of the 5 areas of this treaty, but there's still an area which you haven't broken yet. But as soon as he breaks that 5th area, then Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam has to rise.
Sure. And we're going to take a call and then answer the call when we come back from this advert break. So inshallah we're going to take this call. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you doing, brother?
Alhamdulillah, very good. Thank you.
First of all, very Eid Mubarak to yourself and Brother Ammar.
Thank you very much.
Yourself, brother.
And moving on to the topic of the day, Muharram, there are two things. One